today we're going to dive further into building our own theme, and we're not going to quite get our hands dirty yet. There's still a couple more things we got to go over first, but they're just some minor things, and then in the next lesson we're going to start building our theme from scratch. Okay? So what we need to do first is we need to go over a little bit about layouts and blocks. So you have these layouts and blocks, right? This page is actually using a 2-column layout despite it looking like 3 columns. If you remember when we went into the static pages and we went and edited this, there was actually some custom layout code in there, and it was giving this a 2nd column despite this saying it was only 2 columns. So this main column here and this left column are actually 1 column that is just being done with CSS. To prove it to you, if I were to go into CMS static pages, pages, not static blocks, home page, you can see the design of the page says 2 columns with right bar. Like I said, the reason why it's doing something different is because the default in Magento here for the home page has this left column in the code here. So just ignore this being 3 columns, but what a layout is it's the actual layout of the page. As in, this is 2 columns. We have 1 column, which is this main content here, and then we have 1 column, which is the sidebar. Main column, right sidebar. If we go to a particular product, you can see these are actually 2-column pages as well. Main content, right sidebar. And these can all be adjusted. Let's say if we wanted to adjust one of these specifically for like an individual product, or even let's say the home page, we can say the layout. The layout's now going to be 1 column. Okay, now let's refresh. Let's go to our home page. Now it's 1 column. And like you said, it may look like it's 2 columns, but like I showed you before, that 2nd column is actually just done for some reason on the page itself. So this is how you change the layouts in Magento, right? So you have these different layouts. By default, there's just 1 column, 2 column with the left sidebar, 2 column with the right sidebar, and 3 columns. You'll be able to create your own, but you shouldn't really need to create any outside of that unless you want to. But the layouts is sort of like the most global picture here. And then if we go down a little bit more, we have structural blocks. And the structural blocks are actually the components of the layout. So the header, this whole bit right here, is all considered a structural block. The left column itself is a structural block. The main column is a structural block. The footer is a structural block. And then the content blocks are those blocks within the structural block. So let's say this best-selling products, this is a content block. This poll is a content block. Recently viewed products, it's a content block. Okay, so this is going to be very important to understand once we get into sort of the XML stuff and being able to change and move these around, okay? We also have something called widgets, right, which are dynamically created pieces of content that would be blocks on the site that are sort of dynamically. So this popular tags is considered a widget, but it's a content block. So these blocks of things can be not only just a static image, but it can also be a widget, which we did go over in a previous lesson, but I'm sure there's always more to go over. So let's talk a little bit more about themes. I'm going to show you something real quick too. Let's talk about this rollbacking that we talked about in the last lesson. So if you don't have any particular files in your theme, let's say your theme's name is default, and then of course it has the default theme in here. If you don't see, if you don't have a particular file in here, it's going to go, well, okay, let's put it this way. Let's look at the modern theme. If there's not a particular file in the modern theme, first it's going to fall back to the default. It's in your theme package. And then if it doesn't find it in here, it's going to fall back to this default or your base default. The lesson here is you're not going to necessarily want to ever edit any of these base default theme files, because let's say you mess something up. There's really not a whole lot of ways to fix it if you can't go back to these default files that you have here. So really the best practice would be to create your own theme and then just go from there, okay? But to show you about how we change themes and how it's really cool, because you don't have to have the app layout stuff. If you want to do only CSS to your site, you can do only CSS by creating or by using just the skin. So if we look in our, we're in the folder structure we're in right now is in skin, front end, and then default. You'll notice that Magento has all these themes installed by default with our site. So let's actually show you how you can enable one of these themes, and it'll get you a better idea. So in the next lesson, when we start to create the bones of our own theme, you'll know exactly how to enable it. Okay? So if we look here, we have modern, blue, blank, default. Let's see what the blue theme looks like, and we're just going to use the CSS for the blue theme. If we go to our site and we go to System, Configuration, and then now down to Design here on the left, you'll see that we have our current package name and then themes. In your theme, it's allowing you to do different things here. We can CSS just the layout, change the default. We're going to, right in here, we're going to type in blue, because if you remember, there was that blue theme in our skin file. So let's click Save. If we have this in here, it saves everything. It should be using the blue theme variant. So let's go to our page and let's refresh, and you should see a new theme. So here's exactly what can be accomplished with just CSS, and it really changes the whole look of the site here. You can do a whole lot more than just this, but this is a nice way to change it up. And you know, let's say this fits the version of the company that you're looking for. You might not have to do a whole lot extra. You can overwrite some stuff from this. And in the next lesson, we're going to start creating our own theme. I'm going to show you some cool developers tools, and we'll get into some neat stuff.